So we've got all these cards stacking up against CMHC, right? Well, then bloody Remax goes and messes the whole deal up. And instead of being the bullish person in our market, goes on to say that there's going to be declines in our market. That's right, declines, according to Better Dwelling. Good morning, investors. Bradley here from Watson Estates, and you're listening to the largest, fastest growing podcast for Toronto real estate on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. We're having lots of fun. Thank you for joining us once again. And today we got some great topics as it relates to our local market. As an investor and a broker myself, I want to know, what is the news saying happens next? And so we're going to cover some of the big articles of the day, starting with, is the CMHC's housing market forecast no longer relevant? Some economists would argue that's the case. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about Remax, who historically has been very bullish on the market and saying prices will continue to go up. Well, maybe there is a little bit of that grizzly coming out saying that there will be declines, but in what segment of the market can that be? And what is happening in the luxury real estate market? We're going to talk about that. That's often a leading indicator of problems. But before we jump into all of this, make sure you hit that like button, leave us a comment down below. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know how you like our show. And if you're an investor and you want to get involved in our market further, make sure you click the link below here. You can sign up to get high cash flow properties outside the GTA, as well as off-market distressed sales. And I'm going to kind of announce here as well, we are looking for more joint venture partners. If you don't want to deal with the headaches of tenants and toilets, but you want to get involved in our market, send me a quick message. My info is splattered all over the place. And say, hey, Brad, I want to know, what's the latest? Get us involved. Here's the money. Let's make some money together. So wherever it fits for you, I want to help you guys. I want to be available. Even if it's just some of your questions, make sure you hit me up and we'll have a good chat. So you know us, we love to have some fun. And so I thought, you know what, let's start off with something a little bit lighthearted. Elon Musk's satellite internet plan gets the green light from Canadian regulator. Okay, so Tesla, and this is obviously Elon Musk is the co-founder. That's why his name's in the title. They plan on launching 12,000 low orbit internet satellites. That's crazy. 12,000, right? So the CRTC actually, the reason this is big news is they actually approved the company's application to provide low Earth orbit satellite internet to rural Canadians. This is great for rural Canadians for two reasons. One, now you got the internet so you can look up what Tesla is. And two, the number of stars at night are going to increase by 12,000. I just made that. That's pretty funny. I think that's funny. Anyways, one of the company's projects is to bring high-speed internet. We've been talking about this for a while. I've been telling my clients that if you're in rural, this is fun if you're in the rural country because you can get high-speed internet. Why not? Normal satellites float around 20,000 kilometers above the Earth, while these ones are going to sit 550 kilometers above the Earth. That's like next door. That's like next door out in Caledon. All right, but can I just say that if I'm going to buy a car, for example, I'm open to looking at a Tesla. I'll be honest with you. Last time I went to a car dealership, I asked the dealer, cargo space? And he said, yes, but it turns out that I couldn't even get the thing off the launch pad. We tell jokes to keep the mood light, but sometimes they're like Orion's belt, and it's often a huge waste of space. All right, we're going to move in. We're going to have some fun. Make sure you hit that like button and tell your friends. And most of you guys that have made this far in the show, you're probably a regular. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I think this is great. We're developing such a great family of investors. We bring on the best guests, and I have lots of fun. And I love watching the conflict that can happen in our market, namely CMHC versus everybody else. Well, there was an article that came out of Toronto Stories recently that was called "The Several Canadian Economists Say CMHC's Housing Market Forecast, quote, no longer relevant." Does this come as a surprise? Really, people have been bashing the CMHC's poor predictions for so long. Leave Dugan alone. That's because Bob Dugan reaffirmed that commitment a couple months ago that their prices are going to drop 9 to 18%, but they say that most don't believe that. No, duh, they don't believe that. That's pretty extreme. And the question still remains, is that 9 to 18% of March prices, which would be significantly more, or is that just in the last couple months you're kind of restating the flag is planted right here, right now? It's a real landing, I swear. The findings are from a new report from Finder.com that includes results from a recent survey that features forecasts from 15 Canadian economists. This is key, 15 economists. Remember that number. But they do all seem to agree generally, the majority agree that the current interest rate are going to stay flat between now and 2023, which is no surprise to me and anyone that follows on our show. We're expecting interest rates to stay pretty much the same for the next 3 years. You're going to have a little bit of up and down as far as what the rates are at your bank based on seasons and different various changes, but generally everyone seems to think it's flat. However, a lot of them still recommend, as a side note, the financing to be fixed because rates are so low. And if they're not going to go up, not going to go down, get the stability in order to lock in the last 4 or 5 years. So for any of you who are kind of refinancing between now and 3 years from now, I mean, you're good. You can lock in, take advantage of these interest rates. They're unbelievably low. And it's often the reason cited for why prices continue to go nutso. But for anyone on team CMHC, very few people, by the way, all 4 of you, in this feud between CMHC and the real estate industry, which has been going on for some time now, you've now got what they say economists now stacked up against you as well. In a recent press conference, CMHC's chief economist, Bob Dugan, reaffirmed, as we mentioned, 9 to 18%, and many from RE/MAX called it fear mongering. You're just mongering up that fear, right? So again, is this from March? Is this more recently? Is this from the time Bob Dugan reset the number? I don't know. I don't even think CMHC knows. There's so much confusion here. And so Dominion Lending Center's chief economist, Sherry Cooper, says that it is, quote, overly pessimistic. And they say average home prices were up 1.5% in the latest reading in August. Prices are up. Prices are up. And now you're saying you're coming down. You're being overly pessimistic. So what do these economists say, right? With prices going up, I mean, I was going to make some kind of silly joke about space in here, like up space, you know, but I don't want to overcome it. Not funny. Okay. Market up. So what are the arguments in favor of the market is going up, according to these economists? Central One chief economist Helmut. That's a funny name. Helmut. Helmut. I grazed over it when I put this together. Helmut. Play safe, Helmut. Agreed and said that prices are actually on the rise and the record low mortgage rates will continue to drive up sales and prices higher. So here's your majority, by the way. Your majority of 15, 7. Quick math tells me, 7 panelists answered the question forecasting an average increase of 3%. So not only are we not going down 9 to 18%, we're going up 3%. But if I were to pause, I would say that's not a majority. It's not a majority. So I don't know, man. What is abstaining counting towards this? I don't know. I mean, I'm just confused about the system we're using for voting here. Maybe we should remove this damn ranked ballot system they're using. That's only funny if you know that they're making changes to the ballot system. And that's big news right now. I think it's a little bit too big news because really there's been only one place that's used this in London, Ontario. So out of 444 potential places to use a ranked ballot system, only 443 have used it in this past election. What I think needs to be getting more news, in my opinion, as investors, we shouldn't be looking at that stuff. We should be focusing on, well, what's the plan for here in Ontario? I mean, clearly we're changing the election system, but what is this government doing? Well, they're going to unveil a pandemic budget within 2 weeks, something we're going to want to keep an eye on. And when they were asked about it, they kind of gave us a tip. They said there would be continued support for small businesses ravaged by pandemic. And you know what? While we're on a side note, why not go on a side note to the side note and say we still won't have a federal election this year? That's another thing that was just kind of passed. Conservatives said, you know what, you're unethical and you're overspending. And apparently the NDP and the Liberals don't think so. And so we had a confidence vote and there will not be an election still this year. The news is nothing changed. But what are the arguments for market down? Because clearly we've seen 7 out of 15 said it's going to go up 3%. What about the rest? What do the other people say? Well, here are some of the things that they say. They're saying some economists agreed with the CMHC's forecast with almost a third, 33% on board with a market drop of 9 to 18%. So not only do they think prices are going down, a third of them think prices are going to go down 9 to 18%. I mean, that could be a headline too. It really could. Looking at one of them here, we've got Tony Stillo, who he agreed with the CMHC. He said this reflects historic loss of income, job insecurity, virus fear and uncertainty, stricter CMHC lending rules, an effective pause in immigration. Okay, dude, slow down. An exodus out of high-density urban markets, low tourist and foreign student demand for Airbnb, and the end of mortgage deferrals by banks. That's a a run-on sentence, kind of. Was that a quote or did he type it? I don't know. I'd be falling asleep here. I'll be spacing out. Back to reality. These factors may force many homeowners, particularly highly leveraged household investors, to quickly sell their home. Sounds like an opportunity to me. But what I actually hear in this conversation is people that are highly leveraged, right? Not the investors, the smart investors, the savvy ones that have a good portfolio, but the little guys. First of all, they might not even qualify. They might not get a place. What this explains to me is a huge wealth transfer in our society. That's what's going on. And we've seen this time and again. And so I've got a couple, I love to share some of the comments you guys share. And these are the ones that rise to the surface in my book. Ryan Reiner, thank you. I'd expect condo owners are much more likely to have mortgage deferrals. Hurting middle-class investors and owners at the bottom of the food chain are going to be more affected by the lockdown devastation. I agree. I completely agree. I think that's a fantastic review of what's going on. And then Sanjay Bakshi on YouTube said the ship already hit the iceberg. We're standing on the deck. What in the world do we do now stage? I love the lightheartedness. It's true. Oh, damn. Come back. Oh, classic. Okay. But the numbers in September tell us prices are up. In fact, they're up 14% year over year in the Toronto area. Prices averaging now $960,000. But to answer the question, is CMHC's prediction 9 to 18% no longer relevant? Is it no longer relevant? Well, if you ask me, when a third of the economists that you ask on a panel agree with this prediction, in my opinion, that thing is still relevant. So I believe it is. I think it's kind of a clickbaity thing. And if we just toss out this galactic feud, though, between CMHC and everyone else now, it seems that way, what else do I have to talk about here on the show? I mean, it's as serious in my world as the rotation of the Earth. In that, it makes my day. Moving right along. So we've got all these cards stacking up against CMHC, right? Well, then bloody Remax goes and messes the whole deal up. And instead of being the bullish person in our market, goes on to say that there's going to be declines in our market. That's right, declines, according to Better Dwelling. They say, we got economists jumping over slowly. Remax is tooting their own horn. Well, not so fast, right? We all think we got our horn being tooted over here. No, we're going to fart on that one. That is a really stupid joke. Okay, Remax turns bearish on Toronto condo prices and expects declines soon. They're expecting the declines. Are you expecting the declines? Because Remax is. Your realtor is. On the world's largest real estate brokerages sees near-term risk for Toronto condos. You better damn right believe Better Dwelling is going to jump on this claim. If you make a claim like that, it's all over the place. Remax weighed in on the recent market and observed what a lot of people are seeing. A booming detached market and a lot of condo apartment supply. The brokerage cites 3 drivers for this trend: urban flight, lower interest rates, and oversupply. So what's going to get beat up according to Remax, which is just, once again, getting more marketing. They love that stuff. It is the condo space. It's the condo space. Remax is observing what a lot of markets have seen. This thing called urban flight. Urban flight. First, we go to the suburbs. Then we go to the exurbs. Then we go to the moon. Although this trend is across Canada and the US, even in cities where density isn't a huge issue, that may indicate work from home is playing a bigger factor. Remax is saying this. Decoupling employees from the city, whatever the reason behind the trend, it's leaving some cities with more condo supply and weaker rental demand. Both are big negatives for a real estate market. Because it's bigger than Toronto, is it a bigger factor? Like, because it's outside of our city, it's not just Toronto experiencing this. We've seen it in Montreal, we see it in Vancouver, we see it around the world. This plight for the suburbs, right? Most would say yes. I'm not convinced that because it's a global thing, therefore it's never going back. I'm not convinced, but you make that call as an investor. But how can you say people won't be able to buy a place more? Like, how can you sit on the side and say people won't be able to afford it or people won't be able to buy these condos? Why would it not be propped up by interest rates? This is my favorite point of this article, by the way. I think this is fantastic. Well, what if the low interest rates is what is fueling people to leave the condo space? What if? This is a trend driving people away from condo apartments. You may not expect is interest rates. This one thing is interest rates is the reason people are leaving condos. Come on. Can't say that. Interest rates are good. Low interest rates are great. You mean to say that a decision by the Bank of Canada is screwing up my condo? Falling rates stimulate home sales, but a unique dynamic is emerging. People are upgrading from condos into detached homes faster than condos are absorbed, right? Additionally, credit became so cheap, so fast, it may have made more people skip the condo stage of the property ladder. What a good point. Oh, this is what I live for, guys. I don't know about you. This is what I live for. These things, like, what insight. It makes so much sense, right? And really, the rich are getting richer and climbing up, and the poor are staying poor. And in the meantime, this condo space, until we can get a kind of a catch on this bottom, on the lower end of our market, lower in the sense of, making money, the poor, the poverty, whatever. I'm just digging myself into a big poor hole here, right? You guys get the point. People that can't afford houses, people that are perpetual renters and having trouble getting into the market, these people, if this is the case, are going to stay poor. And until they can get their footing, these condos, if this is the case, will have an issue. Or the flip side of that is, in the event that these other units, the freehold, the low rise, they get to a point or so outrageous that you can't afford to skip no more. And that could happen and will at some point happen too. The Better Dwelling article continues. Greater Toronto condos are seeing sharp declines. I think it's supposed to say, it actually had a typo, oversupply. Sharp changes, oversupply. I don't know. Sharp oversupply. Actually, I'm the idiot. Okay. RE/MAX is seeing condo inventory rise due to both flight to the suburbs and interest rates spurring more detached demand. The firm cites a decline in short-term rentals like Airbnb collapsing as one reason. This has resulted in even more condo owners looking to sell or rent to long-term tenants. And we've tracked that. You guys know that. Massive amounts of building across the city further complicates this trend. There it is again. The more you build, you're going to cause a supply issue. If there's no demand there anymore, yet your supply, which you thought we were going to build back in 2016, is now coming on the market, they say it's further adding condo prices as well as rents are expected to decline in the coming months. That, by the way, was RE/MAX. That's RE/MAX. And I must say, as you probably know, I agree with all of these points. I agree with them, right? Though RE/MAX is accused of being overly optimistic, this, in my opinion, is a very fair assessment of our market. So you can't say RE/MAX always says it's good. I believe they're calling a spade, and they're sticking that spade in the condo owners. Better Dwelling is going to add insult to injury. Absolutely. If they're going to take an opportunity here to kind of, your finger hurts. Is that better? Toronto does, they say, have one major risk most other cities do not. And they say it's this: the most cranes in North America, by a long shot, by the way. Supply levels are expected to swell at the same time. Fees for those units are also expected to climb. So two big things, two big pieces of salt to put in that injury. You got lots of cranes, and you also got fees going through the roof. Yeah, those fees we pay, I agree, are outrageous. Life on Earth itself is expensive, though it does include a free trip around the sun every year. But I think it's important at this point to fill in the gaps and give encouragement to you tiny condo owners, the ones that are getting clobbered right now. You probably own a tiny condo and you're like, oh my God, I love Brad, but I don't like what he's saying. Ivan on YouTube, Ivan Garbati, I think that's how you say it. Great comment. I think this is fantastic. And this just goes to show the knowledge base in our audience is great. Here's what he says. I actually pulled MLS data today, this is 2 days ago, for that story about, quote, desperate tiny condos that nobody wants anymore by Urbanation. Last September, 96 tiny condos, okay, last September 2019, 96 tiny condos were sold in Toronto. And this year, there's 86, with total September sales sitting at 1,500 overall. And everyone is playing like this, quote, hey, tiny condo owners, look at these 10 missing sales. You're screwed completely because it's a fundamental shift in global sentiment forever. I think that's a great perspective. We have to recognize that there's been 10 less sales. So when we're talking about things are down like this much and things are changing this much, it's all relative. And the headlines are going to continue to be headlines. And this is why comments like that are fantastic ways for us to put it back into perspective. Things aren't all that they seem. But if people don't want condos, what do they want? And just to very briefly talk on an article, you guys probably know there's a Globe and Mail article that came out 8 hours before I put this together that's called Ontario's Smaller Markets Fuel Real Estate Gains. The small towns are winning. Tesla isn't the only one headed for space these days. Here's a couple quotes they say. By the time they're able to get out here to see it, it's sold, right? That's outside the suburbs. But inside the downtown, our downtown branch is reporting a drop in activity, especially in condos. These are just some of the highlights to talk about the difference in perspective. And according to Benjamin Tall, he says from CIBC, chief economist, I would not be too keen to put up a brand new tower today. That's what he says. That's what he says. By any measure, the V-shaped recovery in the Canadian housing market is mind-boggling. He goes on to predict that sales will stabilize at a level below their long-term potential while price growth will moderate and may even fall into negative territory as we approach the winter months. That's no surprise. If we have price go down a little bit, guys, in the winter months, I'm actually happy because that seems more normal. If prices don't go down, we've got ourselves a very peculiar situation if it wasn't already. So maybe you're sitting on money and you're trying to decide where do you put your hard-earned dollars. Well, I want to take a portion of our hot topics today, and I want to look at some upcoming areas, some potential areas, just to kind of get the gears turning. Okay, wait. When we colonize space, we hope we should. Okay, here's my point. You got investment dollars. Backtrack. You got investment dollars. But when we get into space, I sure hope we don't call it investment dollars. I feel like that's a missed opportunity. What should we call it? I suggest I put forward the name Starbucks. All right, here we go. Let's move on. So here's some ideas. You're thinking about investing. What are some ways you can invest? Well, first way you can invest is opportunity number one is look for the development. There was a big article today that comes out that's called, Could Etobicoke Centre Soon Become Toronto's Downtown West? There is a plan now for an Etobicoke Civic Centre and new Kipling Transit Hub that's in the works right now. The city's vision for the area includes the creation of 7 blocks out of the reconfiguration of the 6 points interchange with a new civic centre and focus of the redevelopment. Construction is expected in 2022. Occupancy anticipated in 2025. If you're interested in that area, I recommend you guys jump in and take a look further at the article. But there is a very real possibility that the Etobicoke Civic Center down the road could become the middle of its own new world. A whole new world. If there are any producers out there listening, I'm your guy. But if that's the case, if there's a whole new world being created out here in Etobicoke, we should hold a space-themed grand opening party. Though with COVID, nobody wants to take charge and be charged with the one being the one. Blow it. I blew it. No one wants to be charged for trying to plan it. That was the joke. Anyways. So there's one way you can get in where there's investment opportunities. Another way is you could look for space. Really look for space. The best of most worlds. Why St. Clair West is one of Toronto's hottest pockets. I like hot pockets. Let's hear it. St. Clair Avenue's western stretch combines the welcoming warmth of established neighborhoods with a slower paced, more considered lifestyle, thanks to finding itself just enough of a distance from the downtown core to remain uncomplicated by it. If COVID-19 has taught city dwellers anything, it might be that convenience should not give way to peace and serenity of one's immediate environment. You can see the trend here. Right? People are looking, they say Torontonians are becoming ever more recluse, not by choice, but by necessity. The importance of community-oriented environment is growing ever more clear. So that could be your reason for making a call in that area. But I thought, you know what? I also want to add this third point where there's lifestyle, because lifestyle is a big factor when you're choosing an environment. And I want to point out to you guys, if you didn't see it, if you're looking at neighborhoods, this is a great article from Zoocasa. They actually pointed out 8 of the top neighborhoods in Toronto. I'm going to give you the list. If you're invested in any of these areas, good job. First of all, if you're not, maybe these are areas that you're going to want to consider. Number 1, Rockcliffe Smythe. Number 2, Riverdale. 3, Leslieville. Then we got Danforth Village, Davisville Village, Bloor West Village, Leaside, Lawrence Park South. These areas are top on the list. Check it out if you're interested in looking for what neighborhoods you want to invest. But people are all chasing the best lifestyle that Toronto has to offer, and these have it in droves. In fact, the reason that they picked them, by the way, is amenities, green space, parks, and top-rated schools. That was the criteria that they used. And as people are looking for the best lifestyle, these areas will naturally lead to the rest of the market in the next few years. When you want to move into this area, why not go for the top spots, right? Like, think about it. When the aliens, they finally arrive, they're going to go to the top species, cats. And they'll say, take me to your litter. Bradley, you can't just tell a joke about Martians. It's not cool, man. Only Martians can tell Martian jokes. There was also an article to kind of wrap up our hot topic. There was an article about emerging trends in real estate, ULI and PwC. I love this because it points to who's winning and who's losing. In the commercial submarkets, we see retail trouble, office space uncertainty, yet warehouse gains. Okay, so I thought this was an interesting thing, kind of take a quick look at what's going on in the commercial space as well. On that note, we look at golf courses. I saw that there's a ton, it would seem, golf courses now getting converted over to housing. This has been a trend for a while, but it's becoming more and more. They say this, the simple fact it was a private course and now we're opening it up. This is actually talking about Angus Glen Golf Course in Markham. A lot of these golf courses have a lot of pressure to turn into housing. Ground housing is a very desirable house form. The market has been undersupplied with that housing form. I believe, in my opinion, if you ask me, that a vote for low-rise properties is not a vote against the city. That's what I think. I don't think people are leaving the city. I think it's a vote for this pressure of supply outside the city. Obviously, it's a lifestyle change too. I don't think people are running from Toronto. I think people are being pulled out of Toronto, I think is my point. But with the border closed, the aliens entering our country are limited. Can I call them that? I don't know. You are welcome here. That's the symbol, right? Live free and prosper, whatever. That's before my generation. Meanwhile, us residents are in search of the one thing COVID has made us want more, lots of space. Lots of space. But without big money, has the GTA luxury market been able to hold up? This matters because the luxury market would usually be the first to burn, yet it is burning in a different way. The luxury real estate market is absolutely hot. If there's one area of the real estate sector that could answer this question, it's the luxury market. From Vancouver to Toronto to Montreal, the nation's luxury real estate market has been performing well. This has been attributed to consumer trends and changes in home buying pattern, with more people working from home and a renewed focus upon our living space. With foreign demand for grand properties, mega mansions, and upscale homes remains a crucial factor. Industry experts are pointing to current homeowners looking to move up among changes in their work situation. This whole article, if I were to kind of talk about it, it's just saying domestic buyers are also setting their sights on luxury real estate. The numbers here, if I were to quickly point to that, they give a couple examples of, there's a Yorkville property sold for 7.1 million. We had there's just a couple properties, one in entertainment district for 2.95. And where's the numbers? I want to find you guys the stats. If I have it here, let me see. I don't. I think it was up. I think if I had to remember, they give it in tiers, and I believe I saw a 4%. I can't see that in here. Anyways, all that to say, unless you're buying luxury real estate, look into that deeper. But the point is luxury real estate is doing fine. I don't think it's doing as good as the rest of the market, but it's doing good. People aren't just moving out. They're not just moving away. They're also moving up. I think this is a great point in this particular article. People are setting their sights on luxury real estate in Toronto. If I don't have to leave the city, I want that benefit of the urban living, having that urban area code, yet I can improve my living quality. I can buy something a little more affordable. And this is what's pushing that luxury market. The luxury market is a big one to watch, and they're doing just fine. I'm going to leave it there. But you know me, I like to wrap up with some fun. Now, with trick-or-treating not recommended in COVID hotspots, I'm going to ask you guys, what are you doing? What are you guys doing for Halloween? I was considering enjoying the evening, my opinion, stargazing out of this podcast, inspired by this podcast, or something like that. But when I priced out installing an observatory in my house, the cost was astronomical. And for a costume, I thought maybe I could be an astronaut. Not everyone can pull off wearing a spacesuit, but this year, I'm gonna rock it. I hope you guys had some fun. Make sure you get on our investor list. Leave us a comment down below and say hi, and I will see you next time. Take care and keep it real.